So I think what is clear is that no one should have their rights infringed upon. As human beings, we do have a responsibility to stand in solidarity with those who are suffering from the loss of their freedom. And in the case of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, there are multiple contested narratives. There are some false narratives, political spin doctoring going on. So I think it is your responsibility as an individual to keep yourself informed about what is transpiring in that region and to act, to make a decision to act in any small way that you can. So I'll also focus on the issue of regional security. And Africa, we're quite familiar with the colonial conquest, the scramble for Africa, 1884, 85, and the occupation of our continent by European colonial powers. Then I'll look at the UN Charter and where we are in terms of the crisis of multilateralism that Prof. Zweli has mentioned, and maybe suggest some ways forward in terms of how we can transform our international system, particularly of collective security embodied in the UN Security Council. So I think Africa, it's clear we have endured the brutality of colonialism, the conquest and dominion and oppression. And our countries really only began to be free in the 1960s. And Zimbabwe was in the 1980s, South Africa in 94. And that's 30 years that's passed, but we're still dealing with the legacy of internal colonialism, land dispossession, and you can see the signs of this all around us, in fact, across South Africa. So we're very familiar with wars of colonial conquest. And I think as Africans, this should, enable us to even connect or at least understand the context that is playing out in Ukraine. And I believe that despite the multiple narratives, the selective narratives, and the false narrative, even fake news that is happening at the moment, we have to inform ourselves and also recognize that Ukraine was an independent state in 1945 when the United Nations was established. Many African freedom fighters, including South African freedom fighters, were trained in Ukraine, in Odessa, and other parts of the country. As part of the Soviet Union, Ukraine supported many freedom movements on the African continent. But it's also true that the collapse of the Soviet Union led to the flooding of weapons across the African continent, and some of them did in fact come from Ukraine and other states in the region. But I think the point I'm trying to make is you need to keep yourself informed about this historical context to push back against the false narratives that are being spread out there.